This is all about the halachas of Birkas Hamazon of Zimun. Shlosha shachlu kachas. Page 100. 100 even. Shlosha shachlu kachas. 3 people who ate as one. In other words, they ate their meal together. Chayav l'zamin, they have to be m'zamin. Achal t'mai, u'maisa rishon shnot nit lo trumaso. Now, even if you ate something which is of questionable kashrus, such as demai, the Gemara is going to discuss what the issue is with the demai later, but you ate something questionable kashrus, says demai, you're not sure if all the maisers were taken off, or maisa rishon shnot lo trumaso, you took maisa rishon which nor belongs to the Levi, but the Levi had received it prior to the Truma having been taken off the grain. So the Trumas Meiser was taken off this Meiser. In other words, the 10th of the Meiser, which goes to the Kohen, that was taken off. But the Meiser off the entire crop had not been taken off. So therefore, the Truma off the entire crop had not been taken off. So there was a little bit of an Aveira involved in this substance, which is that this Meiser was set aside from the grain prior to the Truma being set aside in the grain, which is a prohibition. And another case is Meiser Sheni V'Hektish Sheniftu. Meiser Sheni V'Hektish would have been redeemed, but as the Pnei Moshe brings down, the extra added fifth, which normally you have to add on when you redeem Hektish, Meiser Sheni had not been added on. So all these cases are cases where there's a slight prohibition involved, a slight to moderate prohibition. Nonetheless, in all these 3 cases of the Meiser Shenit Lo Trumaso, then it's Truma's Meiser, but not the Truma on the entire batch of grain. And Meiser and Hektish which redeemed, but not with the tacked on fifth. All these cases, you have a problem. Nonetheless, you chayiv and zimun. The people who ate this food are mitzaref all together to create a threesome for benching. Shamash Kazayis is Shamash who ate a Kazayis worth, even though he's the Shamash and he's not really integrally part of the meal, as the waiter, he also joins in. Fakuti, these are the days when they still held the Samaritans were valid Gerim, and therefore they're included in the Zimu as well. Avo, however, Ochal Tevel, if the individual ate Tevel, which is things which are completely unticed, or Meiser Rishon Shlonilo Trumaso, or Meiser Rishon from which the Trumas Meiser had not yet been taken, or Meiser Shein and Hektish out to Yerushalmi, obviously, which are not redeemed, Shalom Niftu. Now, these are all more weighty, these are more severe prohibitions. And a Shamish, Shach Apalazais, who didn't eat a Kazai's worth of bread, so he didn't really join in the meal fully. Vanochri, and of course the Goy, all these latter cases are not individuals who are included in the quorum for a 3 for Zimun. No, we will not discuss that. It's probably just mentioned contradistinction to the ratio. It won't, at least the Yerushalmi won't discuss it. I don't remember the Babli does or does not.
Why would he even have, why would Nachri ever, even if he...
No, he thanks God. Why can't he do anything good? Why not? It's not so simple. It's some say, it's not one of the mitzvahs, the Taryag mitzvahs to make a zimun. Benching is. But zimun is not. Maybe one could say that he's included in a threesome to thank God. The chiddush is that this too has a mitzvah quality and therefore Jugoyim don't join in. That's what I would say. I don't know if that's correct enough. That's what I would say. Hachitmar. So here it says in our Mishnah, in the next Mishnah it says, Hacha is the next Mishnah. Even though Hacha means now, but it means in the next Mishnah in the case. Itmar it says, Ein Rashoim L'cholik, that the 3 people who got together are not allowed to split up. V'ka, and here in our Mishnah, Itmar it says that the 3 people are Chayav and L'zamin. Why the 2 Mishnahs seem to be repetitive? It seems to be redundant. So Shmuel said there are chidushim in each one of the Mishnahs. One kam b'tchila kam b'sof. The Mishnahs are enumerating the ways in which one can make up or become part of a threesome for benching. There's a way to do so initially, and the way to do so after the fact, so to speak. What are these ways? Ezu b'tchila v'ezu b'sof. What is considered to be a first way at the beginning, and what is at the end? Tchein HaMoirim. The two Amoraim who interpreted Shmuel's statement. Chad Amar Nosnu Das Lechol Zeu B'Tchila. The one said that when they intended, they focused themselves and said, let us eat together. That means that they planned the meal in unison. That's called B'Tchila. These three people now have to bench together, they have to make a zimun. Ochlu Kizayis, that's the interpretation B'Tchila. What does the Basov mean? Ochlu Kizayis, even if they didn't plan their meal together, they didn't launch into it as one. But they ate a Kizayis together. They ate a Kizayis as parts of the same sitting. So that's Basov. That also is a way which requires them to bench. So one of the Mishnayos indicates the one way is coming together and planning the meal together requires them to bench with the zimun. And the next Mishnah indicates that the other way, they're having ate a Kizayis together even without the explicit statement, also requires them to make a zimun together. That's one interpretation, B'Tchil B'Sof. The Chorana Amar, the other Amora said, how do you interpret Tchil B'Sof? He says, Ochlu Kizayis Zo B'Tchila. Tira Kizayis together, that's called B'Tchila. That's what he calls the Tchila. Gomra Achilosan. Even if they didn't eat together, however, if they finished the meal at the same time, then they bench together. Which means that they don't really have to eat at the same time. He ate 5 minutes earlier, he ate 10 minutes later, but as long as they're finishing up at the same time, then that's considered to be requiring them to bench together. Okay, to make a zimun together. Okay, Rabbi Abba b'shem Rav Huna, and Rabbi Zir b'shem Abba Bar Yirmiyah said, Shlosha Choyva. 3 are mandated to make a zimun together. Shnaim, 2 Rishus. If they want, they're allowed to make a zimun. They don't have to. It's not mandatory, but it's voluntary. We don't pass in this way, right? But what's fascinating about this Gemara is what you're about to see. What you're about to see, it's a pity there aren't more people who have seen it. We're about to see a classic Yerushalmi, perhaps the first one we've seen. The underlying, one of the underlying, what should I say they're called? One of the underlying, you made just in time.
Time for what?
One of the underlying, a classic Yerushalmi sugya. One of the underlying qualities of the Yerushalmi, which we don't find that often in the Bible, although occasionally, is the concept of a hyperconnection. I made up the term. A hyperconnection means that a connection which transcends the normal parameters of similarity, which we would find in Talmudic logic. Okay? And that's what we're about to say. We just saw before you came in that the Yerushalmi holds that 3 people are mandated to make a zimun together. 2, if they want, they can. They don't have to. It's Rishus. And now we're up to the 4th line from the bottom on Nun Alf and Alf. Amar Rabbi Zira, Kumi Rabbi Yasa. Rabbi Zira said in Rabbi Yasa, Amar Lei, he said to him, Rabbi Zira said in front of Rabbi Yasa, I Ainli El Mishnah. I don't know this business of 2 can volunteer to make a zimun together. Never heard such a thing. All I know is our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says, Shloishish ochlu kachas chayovin l'zamin. 3 people have to be mazamin. There ain't no such thing as 2. Okay, so we set up here machlokas. Rabbi Abba b'shem Rav Huna said that even 2. Rabbi Zira said in front of Rabbi Yassi only 3, right? Not 2, only 3. Rabbanan da'acha b'daitun, Rabbanan da'asim b'daitun. Rabbanan in Bavel followed the Babylonian. Well, I don't know if that's exactly Bavel and Eretz Yisrael. I guess it is. Right, Rabbanan in Chutz La'aretz, Rabbanan da'acha datun, Rabbanan in Eretz Yisrael followed their line of reasoning, and Rabbanan also the rabbis in Bavel followed their line of reasoning. What's their line of reasoning? Shmuel Amar. This is the Babylonian opinion. Shnaim Shadonu. If 2 people sat in court, instead of how many people does a base normally require? 3. If 2 people sat in court, dineim din. Their psak is about psak. Ela shenikra based in chotzu. They call it brazen basin. Because it's not proper. You should, if the Torah said 3, so don't play games. Use 3, but it's a good psak. Whereas Rabbi Yochanan Shimon Lakish with the Israeli Amoraim, Tarbayu army, they both say Afilu Shnaim Shadonu, even the 2 people did judge, Ein Dineim Din. Their judgment is not a valid judgment. So you see the connection was being made between the unit of 3 by Zimun and the unit of 3 by benching, right? What? So that's what I'm saying. It defies the norm. The Yerushalmi will defend itself. Yerushalmi is going to come, is aware of your question.
Such connection is not found in the Bible.
Absolutely not. Between the 3 by benching and the 3 by basting.
But there are similar concepts that don't seem to be related.
But not, of course there are, but not to this extent. We usually don't have a concept, a hyper connection between Zroim, or Chaim in this case, and Nezikin or Choshen Mishpat. This is a remarkable connection. Who the units of 3, the Yerushalmi is saying, a unit of 3 is a unit of 3 transcending the specific application in which we're dealing with it. In other words, we, in Babylonian logic, so to speak, we would say that each issue requires its own own definition, and therefore the 3s are not necessarily similar. But the Yerushalmi is saying, if we have a concept in the Torah of a unit of 3, that transcends the specific application thereof. It's a very different approach.
Well, the whole thing in the Bible is a whole discussion as to why doctor 3, because in Shaka we can't have it.
Right.
The numbers, it's like totally.
This is totally different. Totally different. Right. But as I said, the Yerushalmi will defend itself. Just a minute. Give the Yerushalmi a few minutes. Rav Huna Amar, Shlosha Shachlu, Zeh Bifnei Atzmo. The Yerushalmi is going to expand on this now. Rav Huna Amar, Shlosha Shachlu, Zeh Bifnei Atzmo, Zeh Bifnei Atzmo, Zeh Bifnei Atzmo. You have 3 people who ate separately. One ate by himself, and the other ate by himself, and the other ate by himself. And then they became one unit. They came together. Mizamnin. They can make a zimun. There's a very big chiddush. One ate in one room, another ate in the other room, another ate in the third room. They can all come together and make a zimun. Okay? Excuse me. Rav Chisda Amar, Vein Shebo Misholosh Chaburos. Rav Chisda said this is only true if each one ate in a unit of 3 wherever they originally ate. Then each one became chayiv and zimun where they ate. So each one now is a bar chiyuva. He's subject to the responsibility to be mezameh. That's why when he comes together, each one comes together with one from the other chaburas, all of which are chaburas of 3, then they form a new chabur of 3 and have to bench together.
What about the other 2?
Kasha and Amaisa, the other 2 suffer.
That's also a chiyuv.
You're right. The question is what right he had to leave them. That's a separate issue. Let's say there are 5 in each room. Right? We can find a configuration which will work, okay? But the point is that Rav Huna holds that even if they each one say it separately, as long as now they came together, they fused to become a zimun entity. Rav Chisda holds that that's not true. Because that only if they originally, while they were eating, were part of a zimun, now when they come together, also they retain that chi of zimun and they can bench together as their own new zimun. That's Rav Chisda. Al daited Rabbi Zira v'chavro say. Now, according to Rabbi Zira, who said in Ramanah, if I don't know anything besides our Mishnah, says Shlosha Shachlu Kachas, so he's a literalist. He holds, no such thing. They must have eaten together in order to be mezamein together. And therefore, even if they came from 3 chaburas, they can't be mezamein together. They have to have eaten together. So we have 3 opinions, right? One opinion is that even 3 individuals who ate each one in isolation. The next opinion, that's Rav Huna. Rav Chisda's opinion is that even if each one of the 3, even if each one, they can come together only so long as each one ate as part of a unit of 3. And Rav Zero holds that they can never come together after they finish eating. They have to eat together. Now, Rabbi Yoina al Hadod Rav Huna. Rabbi Yoina said concerning that which Rav Huna said. We're going to go through the three shitas again. According to Rav Huna, this is amazing. Hitpil sholosh ezoivel zebif neatzvo v'zebif neatzvo v'zebif neatzvo. There's halacha by tzaras, somebody who had tzaras, and now he becomes tohar. You have to sprinkle blood on him. Blood, and I think oil, the oil you dab on, but the blood you sprinkle, the blood of the birds. One of the you take for a mitzvah, two birds, one of which you send away, the other which you shech, and you dip three branches of a hyssop bush into blood, and you sprinkle them with it. Oh, now, do those three branches have to be together or not? It has to be three branches. So it's going to be, says the Yerushalmi, another hyper connection, the same machloikas. What it says the Yerushalmi, says Rav Yoina, ala daughter Rav Huna, you dipped each branch of hyssop independently into the blood. You can still put them together afterwards, and then you bundle together. That's considered a bundle of hyssop. That's fine. That's good. When then they come together, mazavan, you could sprinkle the blood from them. Rav Chisda Amar, no. According to Rav Chisda would have to be since you have to dip not individual hyssop branches, but rather a bundle. So you can each hyssop branch must have been in a bundle of three when you dipped it. So you could have 9 branches. And then dip 3 and 3 and 3. And then untie the branches and take 1, 1, 1 and form a new bundle of 3. But you can't have taken branches and dipped them individually. Okay? Mm-hmm. And that's Rav Chisda. And then according to Rabbi Zira, Al Daiti to Rabbi Zira v'chabrosei, according to Rabbi Zira and his chabura, v'ushihit bil shloishton ka'achas. No, you can't dip each branch independently, nor even as part of a bundle of 3 and then reconstitute a new group of 3, but rather the bundle in its entirety and in its wholeness must have been dipped into the blood, that same bundle of 3. So here again we have this amazing hyperconnection, that the definition of how to make an Azo bundle for the purpose of Tvila, for the purpose of Hazor by Tzaras, is derived from a Machlokas by Zimun. Okay?
Now, in Pesachim we had a discussion, I don't know if it was Machlokas, about a few of individual Chaburas, whether the Chaburas...
Right, where they have to see each other, right? Then by Chaburas Kohen Beis, a similar law applies to Zimun as well, whether they can be Mitztarif or not Mitztarif. But we paskin like Rabbi Zira, that they have to all eat together. So Shai is what's called eating together. But that would not be good like Rav Chisda or like I don't know why the one doesn't bring it here. I'm not sure. Maybe it'll be later in the parak. Yeah, but that's not. Yeah, but that's a pretty straightforward connection though, because that's a chabura by Pesach and a chabura here. That's not a wild one like these, right? So now in Tamar. Now the Gemara, the Yerushalmi knows that here we're going to come in 1997 and we're going to be amazed by this, right? So it says Yerushalmi. In Tamar, if you're going to say Ein Lameidim Ezo means bracha, you're going to say, hey, come on, how can you can't learn Ezo from bracha? What's the connection? What's the other? Says Gemara, no, you are mistaken. I'll prove it to you. V'anan chazinan, we have seen the rabbis, Rabbanan, kaimin b'sukkah, that they're talking about the issue of sukkah, v'afinam ititanirok, and they learn from poured mud. And this is even a Bavli. What we're about to say is even a Bavli. So it's almost as if the Yerushalmi is saying the Babylonians came and they claimed to the Israelis, what are you guys doing? So the Israelis said, I'll show you guys. You guys do the same thing. Well, where is this in the, what is the case? Kai Ditnina, like that which it says Taman over there in Sukkah, Hirchik es Asikuch. If you distance the schach, minat foro shlosha tvachim, from you have schach and there's an interruption between the schach and the walls of the sukkah of 3 tvachim of airspace. Still good. Hapachas began if there's less than 3 tefachim of airspace, kshera, it's kosher. Ma'u lishan tachtov. Can you sleep under that open area? Can you sleep under that airspace? Right? You have that airspace between the schach and the wall. Can you sleep under there? Says the Gemara, Heisiv Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elyashiv. Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elyashiv said, no. Well, how so? Harei tit hanirok, mashlim b'mikvah. Tit hanirok is pourable mud. In other words, it's mud, but it can be poured. It's not that viscous that it cannot be poured from one vessel to the other. It's liquefied enough that you can pour it. So the halacha is that tit hanirok mashlim b'mikvah. It'll help make up the shiur of 40 sa'ah. If you have a chveis 35 sa'ah of rainwater, and you're missing 5 sa'ah, so the other 5 sa'ah could be this pourable mud. That makes up the shiur of 40 sa'ah. However, vein matbilimbo, you can't toivel in this mikvah. You can't toivel in this. You can't toivel, not in the mikvah. You can't toivel in the mud. You can't stick your foot into the mud and be yotzei tefillah. You have to keep your body, or whatever else you're toiveling, in the watery part of the mikvah. So to here, afhacha mashlim besukah. So to here, the airspace is part and parcel of the sukkah. Vein yishein tachtav. You can't sleep underneath it. So it doesn't. Since as long as it's less than 3 tefachim, and therefore it doesn't parcel the sukkah is kosher. But just like you can, the mikvah is kosher, but you can't dip your foot into that liquefied mud, so too you can't sleep under the airspace. But I want to apologize. This is not the tzushto the Gemara makes by sukkah. I apologize. The tzushto the Gemara makes is a Gemara Bava Basra, actually. The one place, and my sefer is Big Day Sheish, I comment on this, because this is the one place I remember offhand where the Bavli does like Yerushalmi is by sukkah, but not by this case. The case is a case where you have schach kosher and schach posel, and you mix them together, schach kosher and schach posel, schach kosher and schach posel. And the question is that you have, the halacha is that by schach posel, you're allowed to have up to 4 tefachim schach posel in a sukkah. By airspace, you're only allowed to have up to 3 tefachim of airspace. So the Gemara asks, how is this possible? Why is there a difference? Why is schach posel any better than airspace? Airspace, you're only allowed to have 3 tefachim. But by schach posel, you can have up to 4 tefachim. So the Gemara answers there in Bava Basra, the last paragraph of Bava Basra, the Gemara answers that don't be astounded by this, because we see that there's precedent for this. Whereas it's true by a shtar. It says by a shtar, you're not, by a get mekushor, it's talking about. You had a special document they used to write in the old days, we used to fold over the document and sign a witness. Make another fold and sign another witness, and so on and so forth. So the Gemara says there, if you have a blank fold, the get is possible. But if you have a fold on which a relative is signed, even though he's a puzzle aid, it's still kosher. So you see, milu b'kroivim kshera. Even though a korov is puzzle leheloid, so it should be no better than an airspace. But we see, no, milur b'krovim is good, so to fill with something puzzle is better than leaving it blank. And the Bavli there says the same thing by the schach puzzle. To have schach puzzle is better than having airspace, and that's why schach puzzle is up to 4 tefachim, and airspace is only up to 3 tefachim. So that's a case by sukkah where the Bavli does mimic the Yerushalmi. But not this case of the Titan Yerok is specifically a Yerushalmi case. That's not brought down in the Bavli. So in any event, so these are the Gemara is saying, I have a rationale. In essence, what the Yerushalmi is saying is defending its principles of logic. The Yerushalmi is saying I have a precedent from this case. I'm not sure whether this case is any better case than the benching case, or that, or the benching to the Beis Din, or the benching to the Ezo. But says Yerushalmi, whatever, this is the precedent. There are cases in which we can make connections which transcend the normal parameters of logic which we might be accustomed to, and take an abstract concept, whether it be of threes, of bundling, or of hitztarfus, with the case of the Titani Rok and the Schach, and make connections between different areas of Torah using the underlying common thread. And this is a very, very basic Yerushalmi approach. The Rogatchover is very famous for having done this many times. This is part of his Derech HaLimud. The Rogatchover, a lot of the Polish Lamdonim, such as the Avnei Nezer and Chelkas Yov, also had a similar approach to this. And this Derech HaLimud is really Yerushalmi Derech HaLimud.
We have another concept, maybe I'm mixing it up, about
Yes.
when something is within 3 tefachim of the ground.
Yes.
So it's on the ground.
Right.
So is that also an aspect?
Well, where do you want to...
3 tefachim above the ground.
Right.
But it's considered to be part of the ground because
But that's not a... we're really referring here to comparing or contrasting to the... Not comparing and contrasting, but rather to connecting. What a concept which is in one Seder of Shas to another Seder of Shas. Not just viewing something in the abstract, but rather taking the abstract concept from Lavud. Generally, it doesn't apply to any place else other than making mechitza. If were we to apply Lavud Chveis to benching, then that would be a Yerushalmi type connection, right? If we can find somewhere to create love and benching, that's the hyper connection I'm referring to. Okay? So this is a class of Yerushalmi. This I probably would take if I wanted to give, not that I know that much Yerushalmi, I only know 50 blot, but if I wanted to give a classic example of Yerushalmi is famous for, so this is the Gemara I would give. Okay. Says more further. We're in the third line from the beginning of the wide lines on Nun Alpha and Base. Shlosha shachlu kachas. 3 wait together. And one of them wants to leave. So he wants to bench now. This is a very common case. It happens all the time. 3 people wait together. One of them has to leave. He wants to bench and leave. So the base Rav Amri Yivarach Baruch Rishon V'Yelechlo. He says the first bracha and then he can leave. And if you recall, this is our practice, right? For the person says Rabbi Sainavarech, and they go through the zimun, and then they go through the first bracha benching, listening to the person who's making the zimun, and then he finishes silently, and they can continue with their meal, and he can leave. However, the Yerushalmi asks, what is bracha rishona? Ezri bracha rishona. The base Rav, in the house of Rav, they said Zubirkas Azimun. It's only up to Baruch Shachal Mishlov Tvochainu. They don't have to remain silent past that. The zimun is defined by the Rabbi Sainavarech till Baruch Shachal Mishlov. That's it. Whereas Rabbi Zira B'Shem Rabbi Yirmiyah says, well, we're more accustomed to Zu Azonas Hakol. That where does the Birkas Azimun last up to? Azonas Hakol. Rabbi Chelva Barchana B'Shem Rav said, Zu Azonas Hakol. Also, it's up to Azonas Hakol. Hey, see Rav Sheshes. So Rav Sheshes, that's the kasha on Rav, on the house of Rav, who said that it's only the up to Baruch Shachal Mishlov Tvochainu from Asnisa Palka, the Pliga, the Brisa argues. Brisa says Shnaim Shlosha Chayav and Birkas Azimun. It says if you have 2 or 3 people, the Brisa here is shorthand, but what the Brisa says, they have 2 or 3 people, each of which knows one bracha of benching. They're all Amaratim, but each one memorized one bracha of benching. So you have 2 or 3 people, each one memorized one bracha of benching, they bench together. And each one says the bracha he knows, and the other ones listen. So what would be 3? Hazon. Nodeh. And Rachim. Right? Like Rav, they should have to know 4th bracha. Which bracha should they have to know? Birchas Hazimun. If you hold like Rabbi Yirmiyah, then the Birchas Hazimun is not a separate bracha from Hazon. It's one unit. When you have a zimun, then Rabbi Sainavarech and Hazonas Olam become one bracha. So like him, Taka, 3 people can say 3 brachas, and that will constitute all the benching. But like Rav, that the Birchas Hazimun is a separate bracha, that 3 are not enough. You need to say 4 brachas. The Rabbi Sai, and then Azon, and then Nodeh, and then Racheh. Right? It's a good kasha. So it says more, again, Shnaim Shloshchem Birchas Hazimun, Harba Lo. There aren't 4. Any Tamar Birchas Hazimun Rishoina, it is going to say the Birchas Hazimun. It's the first of the 4 bracha, is the first, and it's separate bracha. Nisnei Arba. Let it say Arba. So there's more, no, Ashkan Tani Arba. We found another brother that says 4. So that'll be like Rav. Who's the 4th? The 4th is the Birchas Hazimun. In Tamar Zu Azona Sakol. Kasha. However, and then here the gears here is a bit choppy. The Gemara says, now that we found the Brisa that says 4, if that's the case, it's a kasha on Rabbi Yirmiyah. Because Rabbi Yirmiyah holds there are only 3, right? Rabbi Yirmiyah, which is where we Paskin holds, there's Rabbi Sai, which includes Azon, and then Nodeh, and then Rachem. So what is Rabbi Yirmiyah going to do with the Brisa which says 4? And that's what he's asking. In Tamar Zu Azon Sakol Kasha. So it says where maybe, so wait a minute. So maybe you want to give a Rabbi Yirmiyah a teretz to say, nah. What's the 4th one? If you were Rabbi Yirmiyah, what would you answer? Not Yerushalmi as part of Rachim, but rather, no, the next one. Hatov HaMeitiv. Hatov HaMeitiv is the 4th bracha. So as the Gemara say, maybe you want to answer Rabbi Yirmiyah that what are the 4? Rabbi Sai plus Azon is 1. No, there's 2. Rachim is 3. Mikol 2 V'olamai Chasreino, that old bracha, Hatov HaMeitiv is 4. So that's what Gemara says. That's not a good answer. There's my Tamar Zu Hatov HaMeitiv Leisat Yochel Shanyoi. You can't answer that. Why? Because of what Dr. Spadel said. Dom Ravuna, Mishnasa Mishanitnu Aruge Beitzar Likvura Nikva Hatov HaMeitiv. That bracha of Hatov HaMeitiv is a later bracha. This brisa is an early brisa. It wouldn't be referring to Hatov HaMeitiv. Hatov HaMeitiv is a much later bracha. I don't know how we know this brisa is an early brisa, but somehow we know this brisa is an earlier brisa, and therefore it couldn't be that the 4th one is referring to Hatov HaMeitiv, because that only came out much later when they made Aruge Beit, when after the Bar Kokhba War, many years after the Bar Kokhba War, when they were able to then bury the dead people from Beitar. That's when they made this bracha. Hatov. What is Hatov? Hashem is good. Shlo Nisuchu, that the dead bodies didn't start smelling bad. V'ameitiv, and God did good. Sheninu Likvura. So what are you going to do according to Rabbi Yirmiyah with that 4th bracha? So Rav Huna said, Tipater Rabbi Shmuel. I'll tell you how to answer up. Answer up like Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel Lama, Rabbi Shmuel says, Hatov HaMeitiv Dvar Torah. Hatov HaMeitiv is a bracha d'oraisa. We really paskin, and certainly that it's the Rabbanan. But Rabbi Yirmiyah, that's the 4th bracha is d'oraisa, and the 4 mentioned in the brisa, which had the Girsa of 4, is learning that the 4th bracha is d'oraisa, so therefore it existed previously.
When you say that Rabbi Sai is 1 and then Hazon is 2.
Not going to Rabbi Yirmiyah, because Rabbi Yirmiyah said explicitly that they are considered to be one unit bracha, not 2 separate ones. No, the chiv of the bracha would be the raisa, not the form. The form of no brachas is the form. The form of the bracha, if we would say it's the raisa, would be Shem Hashem, Melech HaOlam, and the theme of the bracha. The actual words would not be d'oraisa in any event. But let's see, how do we learn a bracha d'oraisa? So it says the Gemara, of course the rest of the sugya now will deal with that. So there's more, the Siv, I don't know, there are 4 brachas d'oraisa according to Rabbi Shmuel. It says, V'achalto v'savato v'eirachto. That's 3, right? Zubirkas has, I'm sorry, that's not 3. V'chaltem zavot, you should eat and you should be satiated. Ubeirachta, that's 1. Zubirkas hazimun, that's to make the zimun. Es Hashem elokecha ze'azon esakol. That's the first bracha. Aloretz, Zubirkas Oretz, that's Nodeh. Atoiva, the good, Zubirkas Bnei Yerushalayim, that's the Bnei Yerushalayim. The Chenu Oimer, as it said, how do we know that Atoiva refers to Yerushalayim? Because it calls Yerushalayim, Ahor Atoiva Zev Levanon. This good mountain, the Levanon. And then it says, Asher Nosan Lecha, V'rach L'Shem L'Kech L'Oretz Atova Asher Nosan Loch, Ze Atoiva Meitiv, that's the 4th bracha. Okay, fine. That's Rabbi Shmuel's opinion that there's a 4th bracha. Now, let's make a period here. Kosabat Torah. It says in the Torah, bracha lefonea. It's the same mistake when I was praying today. Kosav, it says by Torah, by learning Torah, bracha lefonea. It says a bracha beforehand. Now here, as the Gilin Hashas points out, the Yerushalmi holds that Birchas Torah is the Raisa. Most poskim hold Birchas Torah is the Raisa. The only bracha which is the Raisa is Birchas Torah. The only 2 brachas that are the Raisa, as Yerushalmi points out, are Birchas Torah and Birchas Hamazon. Okay, how many of the brachas of Birchas Hamazon are the Raisa? Either 3 or 4. That's what our friend says, Ve'rachto explicitly. The other bracha, which is the Raisa, is Birchas HaTorah. And in fact, the Ramban counts Birchas HaTorah as one of the 613 mitzvahs. The Rambam doesn't. The Ramban glosses, he's masik. And the Ramban, he complains against the Rambam. The Rambam did not count it. Because here it seems quite clear it's the Raisa. It says, B'Torah, Kasa B'Torah, bracha l'faneh. It says, before you learn Torah, you have to make a bracha. Then Kasa B'Torah, it doesn't say by learning Torah, bracha l'achrei, they have to make a bracha afterwards. Maksiba, where do we see it by Torah l'faneh? That you have to make a bracha before. It says, Kishem Hashem Ekra, when the name of God I shall call, Havu Godel Elokeinu, give praise to God. So Kishem Hashem Ekra is when I engage in the act of learning Torah. Havu Godel Elokeinu, give praise to God, that's the Birchas HaTorah. Whenever you learn Torah, you have to make a Birchas HaTorah. Ksiv b'masal, it says by benching. On the other hand, bracha la'achrav. Midoraisa, you have to make a bracha after you eat. Ve'enksi lefonav, there is no bracha before eating bread. Maksiv la'achrav, where did it say you have to make a bracha after you eat? It says, v'achalta v'savato v'rachta. Eat, be satiated, and bench. So that's afterwards. Minayin litenis omer b'zeh b'zeh. How do we know that you learn out from benching, from Birchas Torah to benching, v'esa omer b'zeh b'zeh, and from benching to Birchas Torah? That, just like by Birchas Torah you make a bracha beforehand, so too by eating you make a bracha beforehand. And just like by benching you make a bracha afterwards, so too by learning Torah you make a bracha afterwards. Now, this sounds like it's a d'oraisa, which is very, because Ba'amitz is not d'oraisa. So perhaps we can understand why it's not d'oraisa because of the nature of how we learn it out. Take a look at that. Each way of learning it out is a weak way. Shmuel Nachmani B'Shem Reinson says, "As your shame, l'gzeres shava." It's we use the word shame for l'gzeres shava. The problem is, as the Charedim points out, it doesn't say the word shame by benching. It says it by Birchas Torah, Kishem Hashem Ekra, but it doesn't say by benching. So the Charedim goes to Navi. It says in the Navi, it says somewhere, not from Navi. He says, it says by Maisim, it says by in the Parsha Birchas Hamazon, it says L'shakein Shemo Sham. The Charedim in the last line of Charedim means now Shakein Shemo Sham. So Sham means there, Shem means name, but Sham, Shem, the same letters, right? Krieg Sieve, right. So Shalom and Shem is sufficiently similar to make Xeris HaKosim.
Why do we have to resort to Shem? What about just Hashem's name?
Oh, so the Mashbiach says that the Xeris Shav is based on the actual name of God.
Yeah.
It says the Shem of Hashem, Kishem Hashem Ekra, and it says V'erachtas Hashem Elokecha. But it says the Mashbiach, there's never any Xeris Shav like that anywhere else in Shas. No other Xeris Shav made based on Hashem's name. This would be unique. So that's why I would theorize that this is not a true Gzeir Shava. Either way, it's not a true Gzeir Shava. It's an asmach Gzeir Shava. Either because it's Shem Sham, which is very difficult, or it's the Shem Hashem and Shem Hashem, and that's not a true Gzeir Shava. Because if it was a true Gzeir Shava, then everything in the Torah is linked to everything else, which might be true according to Yerushalmi, but it doesn't make for good drushes. So therefore, I would say this is only an asmachta of the Rabbanan, not a bona fide, extrapolation. Okay?
Somewhere, I have no clue where. Somewhere in the Bible, where they mention Zera Shava. I think Rashi mentions on the side that it's really not a Zera Shava. It's only like
Asmachta.
I don't know.
It could be. But I want to point out that the Pnei Yoshua at the beginning of Ketzim Mevorchin does say that according to the Svara, the Bavli uses there, which is that anybody who's nana from Olam Hazeh below bracha kilum moal, so he says brachos d'oraisa. He says according to that logic, brachos d'oraisa, because if you eat before you make the bracha, you're stealing. What? Okay? So, but there are enough drushes of that sort over there. The Pnei Yoshua advances for that it is d'oraisa. Yeah, I know. Right. The question is, I don't know if the question is if you could take the Pnei Yoshua literally enough to make this Yerushalmi literal as well. In other words, that in Tak, according to that Svara, so Bracha Rishon also becomes d'oraisa. I'm not sure. I'm just propose that if you did want to take the Gzeir Shava literally as being Gzeir Shava d'oraisa, that you could base on Pnei Yoshua and say that it's d'oraisa because here you have to make it's d'oraisa because of that svara of kilum moal. All right. In any event, says more further. Again, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yochai says Shem Reinason Atzu Shem l'Gzeir Shava. Ma Shem Shneimar b'Torah implies bracha lefanav. Av Shem Shneimar b'Yirkas HaMazon. B'Mazon, bracha lefanav implies a bracha beforehand, and vice versa. Uma Shem, turning to Amud Beis now. Uma Shem Shneimar b'Mazon bracha la'achra. Just like the Shem it says by benching is the bracha implies the bracha subsequent. Av Shem Shneimar b'Torah, so to the Shem it says by Torah is b'la'achra. Ad Kidun Rabbi Akiva. That's Rabbi Akiva's drasha. This Gzeir Shava. Rabbi Shmuel. There's another drasha like Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shem Rabbi Shmuel says a kav v'chomer. Now this is not a good kav v'chomer. You'll see the kav because he makes it work both ways. Umayim mazon shein tom bracha lefana. Because by benching you don't have to make a bracha beforehand. Nonetheless, tom bracha la'acharav you have to make a bracha afterwards. Torah shituna bracha lefanea. Torah which requires a bracha beforehand. Ain't no din shetei bracha tuna bracha la'achra. It's not a kav v'chomer that requires bracha afterwards. What's the kav? What's the chomer? Right? Not only that, he does it the other way. Ad kedun Torah. That works in one direction, from extrapolating from Mazon to Torah. Mazon ma. What about extrapolating from Torah to Mazon? So you make the kav v'chomer in the other direction as well. In Torah she'ena tuna bracha la'achra. Torah which doesn't require a bracha after you learn it. Tuna bracha lefaneh does require a bracha before, and Mozon sheton bracha la'achra. Birkas HaMozon which does require a bracha afterwards. Eno din sheton bracha lefaneh is not kav v'chomer, requires a bracha beforehand. So any reversible kav v'chomer ain't no kav v'chomer. Because that means that neither one is kal and neither one is chomer, and you can't learn from the more severe to the less severe, and vice versa. No, it's not a hekish. That's what I'm saying. It seems like this kal v'chomer is just like an asmachta, right? It's not a bona fide kal v'chomer. Hekish should be if they were written in the same area. They were linked together, like we had this morning in the Babli. that we have linkage between it says, so the same pasuk brings out the Yerushalmi Meiser Sheni and Bechor. That's a hekish. The two are not linked by logic, nor by any words, but rather, nor by any, Gzeir Shava type words, but rather by their juxtaposition in the pasuk. Right? They're located in the same area. That doesn't apply here. Okay? So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yitzchak Rabbi Nassan had another way of learning. Rabbi Yitzchak says, how do we know that you make a bracha before you eat? Because it says by Shmuel that when he came to eat, it says when Shaul was looking for Shmuel, so Shaul was told, you find Shmuel in a certain location, and they're going to be waiting for him because he has to make the bracha on the eating before everybody else eats. So it's true that's about korbanos. It's not necessarily comparable. But Lamais, we see there that you make a bracha before you eat, and only then do you eat. Rabbi Nassan, nothing says, how do you know you make a bracha before you eat? Because it says, you should worship God your Lord, and he will bless your bread, and your waters. When is it called your bread and your waters? In other words, that you still possess it before you've eaten it. It's not once you've eaten it, you ain't got no bread, you ain't got no water. You have something inside your stomach. So it says here you have to make a bracha before you ate. It says here so that must be that there's a bracha to make even before you eat. And from here we're learning Baruch Rishon. It sounds like the Yerushalmi is trying to make it some way, trying to learn from Tanakh Baruch Rishon. In any event, Rebbe Omer, Rebbe wants to say another logic to be Mechayiv Baruch Rishon. If when you ate and are satiated, you gotta thank God. When you're yearning to eat, when you're hungry, you got to ask God for the food, right? You have to certainly bless God because He provided you with the food. So therefore, He's providing the food. In other words, if you it's certainly if you have to thank God, you certainly have to supplicate God beforehand.
So that's an internal kol, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's I don't think that gives the power of a doraisa, because the Torah might have said make a bracha afterwards, because after you ate, so make the bracha. Because now you're thanking God. But to make a bracha beforehand, maybe that's not one of the Torah's parameters. It's Rebbe's extrinsic svara to say, if you gotta bless, you should have to supplicate as well. The Torah never said that explicitly. Okay. Ad Kedu Muslim, that's all I'll tell you about eating. Torah ma, what about by Torah? So, why should you have to make a bracha after Torah? Says the Gemara, if eating, which is only temporal consumption, bracha requires bracha before and afterwards. Torah which is eternal life. Lokoshke is not a kavachom, it requires a bracha even afterwards. Rabbi Zir, now what's the bracha afterwards? Where by Torah do you find a bracha afterwards? By somebody gets an aliyah. That's a bracha achra by Torah. Where the Yerushalmi is going to say, we don't have it by individuals, only by the tzibur. That we're going to see explicitly in a couple of minutes. Right? What time is it, by the way? Okay. Rabbi Zira, but we'll try and get to the Mishnah. Rabbi Zira boy, now based on this link between benching and between Zimun, so Rabbi Zira asked the following question, and this is again somewhat of a hyper connection, but this is legitimatized already by the previous Gemara. Boy, Elan, he asked, boy, Elan shows Krios, those people who get the three aliyahs. The three aliyahs by weekday laning. Ma tavidlo. How do you regard them? Do you look at them as three people who ate together, as a zimun, or or three people who ate separately? What's the nafkamina?
Make the first bracha.
Right.
The first person says in the third person.
Exactly, you got it. If you're going to make them like three, you make a zimun, i.e. the connection between benching and Torah is so complete that the three of aliyahs are the three of a zimun. So just like by a zimun, Harishon Mevarach, one guy makes the bracha for all three. So it's here, Harishon Mevarach bracha Rishona. The first person gets the aliyah makes the first bracha. For Achron, the last person gets aliyah makes the bracha. Achron makes the last bracha. For Imtsoya and Mevarach Kolika, and the middle guy doesn't have to make a bracha at all, because you only need one set of brachas for all three. Just like by Zimun, one person demotes all three. However, in Tavdino Kishlosha Sha'achlu Zevni Atzo, you don't look at them as an absolute unit, but rather as separate in the entities. It's not a complete connection to benching. That even the middle guy has to make a bracha before and after, which is in fact the way we paskin. Okay?
We don't carry that over to Zim, do we?
No. It was only a one-way connection. In other words, by Zimun we know with certainty one person's motzi everybody. The shaila is whether laning is like Zimun in that respect, and I would say it's not. Amar Shmuel bar Avdimei. Well, the truth is, in the old days, there was a custom in certain places. I think I remember pretty clearly from the Bavli that Taka, they only made one bracha at the beginning, one bracha at the end. I think the Gemara Megillah says that. But here, they'll be based on this issue of how we link it up to Zimun. You should know that the connection between Birchas Torah and Birchas Hazimun follows through to this extent at least. That just like by that which you make a bracha la'acharav by learning Torah is only by learning Torah barabim. In other words, a yachid, if you learn Torah, you just make a bracha l'fanav. Lots of believers Torah and Sherbach Harbanu in the morning. We don't make a bracha la'acharav. So by learning, we only make a bracha la'acharav in